Welcome, listeners, and a happy new year. I tell you, I've eaten in 5 days enough for 2 to 3 weeks for sure. They gotta roll me out of here. Now, to my new listeners, welcome to the Stories, Fables, Ghostly Tales podcast. For all your original, strange, creepy, and wonderfully unique stories, please pull up a chair and listen. And to my tale tellers and creepy crawlers, your seats are waiting. Today's episode is Michi's Journey, Part 4, Act 1, where we find out more about our host protagonist, experiencing Michi's life, and one of Michi's encounters that will lead to something far more sinister in Act 2. So I can't wait. Let's start this new year with an original by Kyle Brant, the king of Yokai. Grab yourself a hot beverage. I, of course, have my Earl Grey at the ready. Turn those lights off, the sound up, and get ready for something original. I walked into the bar where I could see my team sitting and chatting, and once again my eyes were drawn directly to Jane, who just so happened to look my way and our eyes met. Crap! I yelled in my mind quickly and looked away. I'm such an awkward person. My inner monologue continued. What am I going to say? What should I do? As I approached the group, it was Jane who broke my inner monologue. Hey there, get spooked? She asked, pointing to her hair as if to be a reflection of him. What do you mean? I inquired, as I stared at her blankly. Without another word, she pulled out her compact makeup mirror and opened it, pointing it at me. I could see my own face, my raven black hair, and the bags under my eyes were horrendous. But I noticed the white tuft of hair had spread another 3 to 4 inches. My face must have twisted into an unnatural form because she then queried, Are you alright? I calmed down and returned to my normal demeanor. Yeah, I'm fine, I just didn't realize I could lose that much pigment in such little time. I was now subtly covering my cut. So, who wants a drink? My question was to break the silence that had now taken over the group. Tim piped up with a, Woo! Let's get drunk tonight. Tim was an outgoing guy, heavy-set with short spiked red hair and a full neatly trimmed beard. I got it. Let's also get a karaoke booth while we're at it, I stated. The group exploded into a cheer at the suggestion and started their way to the counter. 1 karaoke booth for 10 and 5 bottles of sake, I exclaimed as the cashier sat behind the counter tapping away on the keyboard. Luckily, she spoke decent English. You have room 10. The bottles will be delivered to the room. My group made their way to the room and opened it. The cool blue lighting made this a relaxed setting room. There were 2 microphones and a large screen TV. There also was a large table in the center of the booth, but had walking room behind the seating to get to the microphones, and a tablet sat in the center of the table. Everyone grab a seat, and whoever is the bravest pick your song, and let's get this party started, I exclaimed. Tim, of course, was pretty buzzed, and as he had the most liquid courage, he picked the first song. Tim's choice was a classic, Billy's Idol Rebel Yell, and it started blaring when it reached the part that screams, More, 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 and Tim mispronounced it as Mo, 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 as an inside joke for the nerds in our group. The bottles arrived after his song was done, and we began drinking, everyone picking out songs and trying not to embarrass themselves as they did it. 3 hours had passed, and we were all pretty buzzed or completely drunk. We decided to call it a night, and head back to the hotel. The less drunk helping the more drunk to even walk and or stumble to our rooms. Jane had hit the bottle pretty hard, and I agreed to help her to her room. The guys in the group all started teasing us by making the bow chicka wow wow sounds, which just made Jane laugh in her drunken state and made my ears red with embarrassment. If she did suggest anything of that nature, I would have probably jumped at the chance. But right now, I was just trying to be a chivalrous gentleman. Come on, Jane. I'll get you to your room. I said as I put her arm across my shoulder and held her upright. As we walked, she rested her head on the side of my chest and giggled. You know, you're pretty cute, and recently with the hair turning white, it makes you mysterious. She lifted her head to my ear and whispered into it. I love a good mystery. Her head dropped back down as she had gotten dizzy doing that. I smiled to myself as we arrived at her door and I helped her into bed, making sure she was on her side and a bucket to the edge of the bed. Good night, Jane. There's a bucket next to the bed in case you get sick. Jane spoke like a tired toddler. Good night. And with that, I closed the door to return to my room, where I ended my night by drifting to sleep. In the morning, I awoke earlier than anticipated, with a stretch and a yawn. I slid out of bed and slinked my way to my clothes for the day. My routine stayed the same, including packing Michi's journal into my day pack. I stopped by a convenience store and picked up a cold bento box to take with me to the site. Once I had arrived, I realized everyone must still be asleep. So, I unpacked Michi's journal and opened it to where he left off. A bolt of electricity shot through me as I laid a hand on it and I began my trip through time. Michi had left the village and was walking when he heard rustling in the bushes. His attention was immediately drawn to his surroundings. In the distance, he could see a man waving his arms as if he was in distress. Minutes later, Michi had made it to the man's location. He was a poorly dressed man with baggy clothing, missing teeth, and one eye was scarred and permanently closed. Are you in trouble? Michi asked, genuinely concerned.
Yes, my cart broke down, and I don't have the strength to put the new wheel on.
The man's face was a blank slate regarding his emotions, something that made Michi question if this man was really in need. Michi placed his traveling pack on the ground, and he heard some more bushes rustle. As Michi kneeled down to inspect the wheel, 8 men popped out of the bushes and beelined towards his pack, as the man he was supposedly helping pulled out a short knife from his sleeve and lunged at Michi, yelling,
"Thank you for the donation,"
to mock the young monk. Michi was on alert the second the man popped out of the brush. It had been a gang of bandits, and this was a trap. Michi's hand shot out, striking the wrist of the man who held the knife, and then he redirected his own hand with his hand bent down at a 45-degree angle and struck the man under the jaw with his wrist, causing a sickening snap sound, as well as making the man throw his head back and fall unconscious. Michi then dropped and swept his foot to snag his traveling pack and flung it underneath the cart to protect it as he stood up again. The 8 remaining men pulled out their own weapons of choice. The first one to attack was the katana wielder. He made a horizontal slash but missed as Michi had taken a half step back. The man tried to correct himself as he realized he wasn't going to land the blow. At the same time, the archer of the group fired an arrow at Michi, who caught it mid-flight. The katana wielder made a diagonal swipe. This time, Michi charged forward, getting behind the guard so the blade wouldn't be able to hit him. Another arrow was discharged at Michi. This time, he grabbed the katana-wielding bandit in front of him and used him as a human shield. The arrow pierced the bandit's left shoulder, causing him to yell in pain, as well as his left hand to come off the handle of his blade. Michi wasn't done with him yet. He grabbed the collar of the bandit's shirt as he headbutted him, aiming for the bridge of his nose. With a gruesome crack and snap, he heard the nose break, and a stream of blood shot out of his nostrils as the bandit fell unconscious. Michi wasted no time and dashed behind a tree so the archer couldn't fire another arrow at him. Michi ducked into the bushes and tried to move as fast and silently as he could to get the drop on another bandit.
"Damn, that little monk isn't as helpless as we thought,"
one of them shouted.
"Don't worry, he's still outnumbered 7-1.
Another reassured. Michi popped out from the bushes and grabbed the bandit holding a pair of sai. The bandit tried to fight back, but Michi had dislocated the bandit's left shoulder and his right arm was twisted behind his back. He grabbed the left sai from his hand and threw it at the archer, hitting his left shoulder, causing him to drop the bow.
"Damn it!
he yelled as his right hand pulled out the sai. Michi twisted the bandit's arm harder, making him drop the other sai. And with a sickening grinding sound, he screamed in pain as his right hand was crushed and he fell to the floor. Michi rushed another bandit that was holding a staff. This one actually could fight decently with his weapon, and he made a quick succession of sweeps trying to catch Michi off guard. Michi dodged each attack, and whilst he was standing still, the bandit that was armed with a bow earlier rushed in and took advantage of an opening and tried to stab Michi. This failed, as Michi stepped to the side, grabbing his hand and catching the staff in between two of the three prongs of the sai. He twisted the bandit's arm, which torqued the sai, and yanked the staff from the other bandit's hand, sending it hurtling into the woods. Michi kicked back with his left foot, striking the shin of the bandit behind him, knocking him off his feet. He then used the momentum to swing the man around like a rag doll and strike the once-armed bandit. In the process, you could hear the snap of the bandit's arm as well as the other's ribs. Both bandits lay one on top of the other, and both out of the fight.
5 down, 4 to go,
he exclaimed just before a chain wrapped around his neck. Michi only had a split second to react, and his left arm shot up between his throat and the chain to prevent it from cutting off his air supply. He spun around to see another bandit holding the end of the chain. The thinnest bandit decided this was his chance and charged Michi as silently as he could, brandishing a kunai, a large dull triangular tool used for farming, but had a sharpened tip. Michi struggled with the chain, trying to prevent the bandit from pulling him. When he sensed the other approaching, he quickly yanked the chain, creating a couple of feet of slack, which he used to catch the other bandit's kunai. With a quick twist and a straighten of both ends of the chain, a horrific crack was heard and the bandit dropped his kunai. Michi released the bandit's broken hand only to wrap the chain around his neck, which gave him leeway to remove the chain and weight from his own neck. Spinning the once-armed bandit around to face him with a swift and powerful roundhouse, he struck him in the abdomen to cause him to double over. He then raised his foot over his head, bringing the heel down in an axe kick with excessive force, almost enough to drive the bandit's head into the ground.
Now, I'm getting tired of this weak fighting,
he stated as he used his full strength to yank the chain, pulling the remaining bandit along with it. The bandit was caught off guard, stumbling toward Michi, who stepped forward with his left foot and swung his elbow directly in the path of the bandit's face, delivering a knockout blow that hurled his opponent 4 feet backwards.
Are we done? There is no way you two can take me,
he stated coldly. The remaining 2 men dropped to their knees begging,
Please, let us go. We had to steal due to a spirit in our village.
They groveled.
Tell me your village's name, and then take your injured and leave. Never return to your village. You're a disgrace. To think about stealing to help them.
His voice was like a dagger that cut deep. The men blurted out the village's name and quickly picked their injured friends up and piled them on the cart before changing the wheel quickly and started off on the path.
Don't waste this second chance. Live honest lives,
he yelled commandingly after them. 4 days later, Michi arrived by foot at the village the men had mentioned, and he began questioning the locals to find out a local landowner had been plagued by 6 wives' deaths, and now his daughter was supposedly possessed. Michi knew he must talk to the spirit to get the whole story. He asked the village to attend a public exorcism at the owner's house. Hours later, the whole village was outside the house watching as the monk had set out a place for him and the possessed to sit. The villagers all looked nervous and guilty of something, especially the older men and women. The current landowner, who happened to be the husband of the possessed, walked out with an average-looking 16-year-old girl who sat down across from Michi. She had dark brown, mid-back length hair and wore a mid-quality kimono with a cherry blossom print. Michi could tell she felt ill in his presence, or that she was sickly in general. He picked up an onsua, a wooden rod with strips of paper folded to create a zigzag pattern, and waved it over the possessed from left to right, while chanting a mantra. The young woman began convulsing and foaming at her mouth. She screamed as she grabbed the rod and yanked it from Michi's hand, tossing it to the side. And that concludes Act 1 of Michi's Journey Part 4. Well, what did you think? And yes, you're going to have to wait till tomorrow to find out what Michi has really discovered. I assure you, it's intense. This week I'm going to go through Michi's stories in particular, courtesy of Kyle Brant, and I have many stories from him, and I can't wait to narrate them. So stick with me for tomorrow's finale of Michi's Journey Part 4 because, well, I have Part 5 already, and it's in the works. Now, if y'all calm folk want to help this channel out, and I think I totally ruined that accent, but I digress. There are 2 kick-ass ways to do this. 1. Find a friend or family member of intelligence and explain to them there is a free channel that narrates stories for brilliant listeners. Go on, compliment yourself. You've listened to the show, you deserve it. And the second awesome way is iTunes reviews. If you have 30 seconds, swinging by and clocking in a review is like my version of iTunes currency. Priceless. And for all of you who are already leaving reviews, rest assured, I'm finding a special place for you on the website as well. Yep, I'm always thinking about you fans, and ever thankful. And lastly, you've listened this far? Well, thank you. You guys and gals keep this channel's blood pumping. You're all just brilliant. And on that note, this is the place where stories live, and you telltellers come to listen. Enjoy your day or night and join me every weekday for our creepy tradition. And as always, till next time.